So this chapter leads to an extreme turn of events that ultimately leads to Bakugo coming back to life, or at least it appears that way. Obviously this is something that I myself and many others wanted, but considering the circumstances around how it's happening here, it seems to have split the community, or for the most part. I don't know if it literally has. I mean, there's obviously a lot of outrage on social media, but you know, when isn't there? And sometimes like a vocal minority can seem a lot louder than they actually are. So I'm not really sure how split people are on this, but I could totally see why a lot of people have major issues with what's going on here. So let me explain what happened and then we'll talk about it. So just to catch you up to speed, so when Bakugo was fighting against Shigaraki / All For One, it eventually got to the point of where his heart like got pierced, and this like straight up killed him, because afterwards Best Jeanist is standing over him and he's like, this can't be, no pulse, his heart is ravaged. And even Shigaraki / All For One is like, this time he's truly dead. So yeah, Bakugo died, and he's been dead for like 2 chapters, at least up until this one. But also in the previous chapter, we see Best Jeanist like standing over him and activating his quirk by, you know, manipulating the denim that he's wearing. And coming into this chapter, we see that he's doing something. Like, I kind of joked in my previous review that he was gonna like repair Bakugo's heart with like denim or something, but it's like, is he actually trying to do that here? Like, what are you doing, Best Jeanist? Get that stuff out of his heart, it's dirty. Hey, also guys, if you like my Hero content, please subscribe if you haven't already. It's fine if you don't want to, but if you just need a reminder, here you go. But that also went into another speculation that we had about how Bakugo could potentially be saved here, just more so by Best Jeanist, because Best Jeanist is the fiber master and he can manipulate any fiber, which means in theory he could manipulate like the muscle fibers or the collagen fibers in Bakugo's heart and save him that way. And I know that's problematic, but it is battle manga after all. But little did I know, I was severely underestimating Horikoshi and how far he was going to push the it's just battle manga here, because Edgeshot starts walking up to Bakugo and Best Jeanist, and he says, that's right, I'm a ninja hero that can sneak into anywhere. I've crept into so many bodies that I'm familiar with it all. And that's very much true. If we go all the way back to chapter 88, you know, at the Camino raid, when they were initially trying to save Bakugo coincidentally, Edgeshot like disabled Kurogiri immediately. And Magni was like, I couldn't see whatever that was. Is he dead? And Edgeshot coming out of Kurogiri was like, nope, just unconscious. I fiddled around with his insides. So yeah, I guess this means that Edgeshot is like a master surgeon at this point, just from years of experience being a hero and using his quirk to go in people and fiddle around and stuff. Going further, he's like, Edgeshot shall not accept this. That stopped heart is a life we cannot afford to lose. We could still make it. I'll fill in for whatever he's lacking and move for him. Then Best Jeanist is like, Kamihara, you can't come back from this. And then Edgeshot says, so then I'll leave the rest to you, President Hakamada. And then in the final panel, we see him start to like spaghettify himself, where he's using maybe his ultimate ability, which is called Ninpo 1000 Sheet Pierce Extreme. And he says, I'll become his heart. So yeah, that's how Bakugo is coming back to life here. Edgeshot is literally going to become his heart. And it's like, okay, didn't see this coming. And considering that like I'm such a big fan of Bakugo, this doesn't really bother me that much, simply because I just want him to come back to life pretty much at any cost, even at the cost of the story necessarily making sense and even losing a character as a result. So like, I'll kind of just let it slide at this point. But I will acknowledge that this is like really out there and probably unnecessary, right? Now, I don't necessarily think it's too far-fetched to think that Edgeshot can do this in general, just the 1000 Sheet Pierce Extreme where he like spaghettifies himself. That seems, you know, within his wheelhouse, I guess. But him becoming the heart of Bakugo is obviously a little extreme, since we never had any kind of idea or it was ever foreshadowed that he could do something like this. So maybe he necessarily isn't exclusively able to perform this procedure, because the way that he's talking to Best Jeanist here with, so then I'll leave the rest to you, maybe that doesn't necessarily just mean like, you know, being the leader on the battlefield here or whatever, but maybe Best Jeanist is like going to manipulate Edgeshot here, since he's becoming like all these strands. Maybe Best Jeanist is going to manipulate his muscle fibers and then like surgically repair Bakugo that way. Because, you know, why not at this point? We're just so far gone that just anything can happen now, right? It doesn't matter that Bakugo has been dead for 2 chapters, and who knows how long that's been in real time. You know, the lack of oxygen to Bakugo's brain seemingly would cause brain damage, maybe irreversible, but you know, let's just forget about that. This is battle manga, things are different. And that being said, does this like completely erase the stakes? Is this bad writing? And I'll say, I don't know. It's kind of somewhere in between. Do I think this is kind of sloppy and could it have been handled better? Yes. But there's also a part of me that likes the poppiness of this because it is very accessible. Like, not everybody reading this is like a hardcore fan, of course. I think more so the majority of the casuals, once they see this in the anime, will probably really enjoy this sequence. And that's ultimately the only thing that matters. So again, I'm fine with it because there's a part of me that really enjoys pop and accessibility, but also bringing a balance so that people that are really into things, not necessarily like the hardcore psychos, but just, you know, the hardcores that aren't psychos, can both enjoy, which is difficult to achieve, of course, but that's another reason why I just like battle manga in general, because I think it strikes that nice little balance. But sometimes I'm totally on board with things go a little too poppy because, I don't know, I kind of like the recklessness of it. Now, also yesterday, I was tagged a lot with this comparison image here, which is Edgeshot being compared to the future version of Bakugo that Endeavor envisions in chapter 357. Now, I already went over this in my 357 review, of course, but at the time, I didn't really know what to make of their appearances. I was more so focusing on Shoto and Izuku, but if you look here, Bakugo has like Edgeshot's tassels coming out of the back of his head. And I guess this answers the question that we had coming out of that panel, and it was like, is this a legitimate look into the future, or is this kind of just like some kind of vision that Endeavor has that doesn't necessarily mean that it's literally going to happen? But I guess it is. Because another thing that I mentioned going over this panel is that it's too articulated. Like, why would Endeavor be envisioning things like seeing Shoto with a different haircut, Izuku with a new cape, you know, Bakugo with the tassels, Kaminari with like his new outfit? So I guess it means that this is like a legitimate glimpse of the future, and that Bakugo is going to survive here, and of course realize that Edgeshot gave his life to become his heart, so that he's gonna, you know, wear the tassels in tribute. But also this means that Izuku is going to get the new stitched on cape, of course, and also that all of these characters are going to survive, meaning that the stakes are nearly non-existent at this point. And maybe Horikoshi didn't necessarily intend for us to go back and look at this and observe it as being the literal future, but I guess this means that it is. I certainly hope not. And not that I necessarily want any of these characters to die, but I would at least like to know that there's a chance they could. Especially Izuku. I thought there was a chance that he was going to give his life at the end of the story to save everyone, but now I guess that's just off the table. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. This is how Bakugo's coming back to life. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. And if you liked the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.